This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make sure to order Jamie Glazov's new critically acclaimed jihadist psychopath, how he is charming, seducing, and devouring us. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, when anti-communism makes you a racist. With us this evening, Gary Gindler, who has a PhD, is a conservative columnist at Gary Gindler Chronicles. Gary Gindler, welcome to the Glazov Gang.
Hi, Jamie.
Gary, great to have you here. I wanted to continue our discussion from last time about Ignatieff and about how he paved the foundation for Black Lives Matter in terms of it actually being a Marxist revolution. So I want to continue our discussion today because much of this is connected to how today, if you are anti-communist, the left paints you as a racist. Why don't we begin with that? Let's start with that concept.
We have to understand that BLM has nothing to do with blacks. BLM has nothing to do with lives. It's a Marxist concept which elevates black population of the United States to the level of revolutionaries. Because Marxists are always in search of somebody to do the dirty work for them. And the founder, ideological founder of BLM, of Russian descent, his name is Ignatieff, he proposed to use black population as the cannon fodder to the socialist revolution. And to do that, he redefined, or rather modified, classical Marxism to adapt them to the American realities. And when he framed Marxism into the American realities, he came up with the concept of white privilege, and that created an opening to do the following, to say that racism is anti-communism. Mm-hmm. That means everybody who is a racist is against communist revolution, socialist revolution. And why he used this concept? Because he needed somebody to do the dirty work. What happened after that? He got a lot of students, and we know that not all BLM members are blacks. Some of them are whites. As a matter of fact, a big percentage of BLM activists are whites. However, we have to agree with you what terms we are going to use, because Marxists use the same words as we do, and they assign quite different meaning. When we talk about blacks and whites, we think simply the how dark their skin is. That's it. We don't imply anything else. For the Marxists in America, the words white and black means quite different. Mm-hmm. White means capitalist, black means socialist or communist. And right. That's the ideological division they are trying to implement.
Right. Thank you, Gary. And in your recent article at American Thinker, you show that about Ignatieff's philosophy in terms of his ideology and how he paved the way for this. And so in his work, as you showed, when he spoke about the physical extermination of whites, in many respects, he wasn't even talking about it literally. He was talking about the ideological purification of whites, as you pointed out. And this purification of whites is purifying human beings overall from believing in private property and individualism and freedom, right? So he's using racial terms, but it's really about a purge. It's about that Maoist, Stalinist purge of the human being to create the new Soviet man, right?
Yes. However, he still considered an opportunity to get rid of all whites as a race. For simple reason, because those whites, they possess so-called white privilege. Again, white privilege should not be considered by Ignatieff as a racial term. It's an ideological term, which means wealthy people. Wealthy people. So when he says, hey, we have to eliminate white privilege, he means wealth redistribution. Wealth have to be taken out from those whites. Some of them could be black in our terminology, and transferred to blacks who are not blacks by their skin, but blacks as a revolutionaries.
Right. And in your article, you show that in many respects, the pinnacle of the realization of Ignatieff's ideas were right in front of our eyes just recently in terms of the Antifistan, as you called it, how Antifa set up their paradise in Seattle and all of the intolerance of dissent that came with it. In many respects, this is the logical outgrowth of exactly what Ignatieff believed, right?
Yes, you're twice right, because it's not just logical. People behind these movements who actually invested money and sponsored these movements, they created two militant wings. Because Democrats got burned by creating KKK in the 18th century, and it still, tarnished their reputation. So in 21st century, they created white version of their stormtroopers called Antifa and black version of their stormtroopers called BLM. Because they are quick learners. And it was, of course, a big mistake to racially segregate their stormtroopers. But that's what they did. And this division, artificial division, it creates not just a simple tension between different fractions within a leftist movement, it creates open competition between them. And this competition sometimes is very ugly. We know that Antifastan in Seattle, which is, I believe, yesterday ceased to exist. There were clashes between Antifa weapon-carrying militant and BLM weapon-carrying militant. However, the common mistake many commentators do while describing Antifa and BLM is to call them brown shirts. It's not correct. These Democrat Party stormtroopers are not emulating brown shirts. Brown shirts were stormtroopers of the Nazis, National Socialists. These two groups on American soil are trying to emulate Mussolini black shirts. They are trying to emulate not Nazis, but fascists. And the structure of Antifa and BLM is very similar. They are not centralized organizations in the normal, sense of view, and their financing is not centralized. These organizations, it's a set of semi-independent, almost independent groups in all 50 states, and they don't have any charismatic leader. That's the second mistake they made, and I would like to point it out that whatever attempt to implement socialism in the United States, it's destined to fail for many reasons, and one of them, they don't have charismatic leader at all. Can you name one?
Well, I don't know if Joe Biden is that charismatic.
In each state, in each city, has its own leader, and this leader does not report to any superior. So when we talk about the most well-known leftist revolution, it's the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. They had charismatic leader. They had Leon Trotsky, who actually made the coup. But modern pseudo-revolutionaries, they don't have such kind of leader. They are destined to fail.
Right. Well, I had also just made the joke just now. I know that Joe Biden is not, the leader of Antifa and BLM, but at the same time, he is the leader of the Democratic Party. So it's a little bit symbolic in a way how absolutely boring he is. But Gary, I just wanted to say on these very profound points that you're making that even though Ignatieff talked about race, but it was symbolic, and even though the BLM talks about race, we see your point exactly that it's not really about race. Despite some of these skirmishes, there's a reason why quote-unquote white Antifa and quote-unquote black BLM understand each other so well. Because in the end, it's not really about race, it's about the revolution.
Because ideological foundation of BLM was created by communist Ignatieff. Ideological founder of Antifa was German communist Ernst Thälmann, who created Antifa to fight the Nazis in Germany. And American left just picked up the idea. So both groups, both Democratic Party stormtroopers have the same communist roots.
Gary, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before you go, what's the main message that we're trying to get across to our viewers this evening in terms of Black Lives Matter, in terms of Antifa? Supposedly what we see is race here. This is really all about something else, right?
Yes, we should abandon Marxist terminology. They're talking now, we are doing peaceful protests. So along with the peaceful protest, we learn new terms from them, like peaceful murder, peaceful rape, peaceful vandalism, peaceful riots. It's all Marxist ideology, Marxist terms. We have to abandon them. But to wrap up our today's conversation, I would like to ask everybody to stop panicking and turn off TV, because all those riots, they are concentrated in democratic states and in the cities headed by democratic mayors. The rest of the country does not experience those terrible acts of vandalism. On top of that, I would like to remind everybody that we will never have socialist revolution here in the United States. Why? Because world history shows that all left revolutions, socialist, communist revolutions, they always happen in the countries where population never had a chance to protect their rights with firearms or any other arms. On the contrary, all right-wing revolutions, like 1776 revolution in the United States, they always happen in the countries where people do have a right and do possess firearms. So whatever these guys do, they are not just playing with fire, they are destined to fail, because the world history clearly shows the statistics.
Well, Gary, I hope you are right. And of course, we're on the same side. But I think at the same time, it's important to emphasize how much damage the left does, how much the left is winning on many fronts. And I would also say, along with maybe what you're saying in terms of maybe not to be worried or not to listen, buy into leftist propaganda, but it's very important for conservatives and anti-communists not to sit back and do nothing. We still have to participate in culture war and to fight for the freedom of America. We can't sit idly by while the left is trying to destroy the country.
Right, because the reminder should be, We are dealing with ideology that killed in the last century about 100 million people. That's what we are dealing with. And it's pretty serious.
Right. So when you're giving the good news, I hope you are correct. I'm just stressing that they are very effective in winning on many levels, so we can't just sit idly by. American patriots also have to fight for this country, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to prevent bloodshed.
Yeah.
And we can. And we will.
Gary Gindler, thank you so much for joining the Glazov Gang.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And everybody, you can see Gary Gindler's work at his website, Gary Gindler Chronicles, and he also has his articles published in many places, but including American Thinker. And we'll see you soon on the Glazov Gang. Good night.